Right, and I've got everybody here. A bit of a technical issue there, and just as we were about to start, the lights went off. So hopefully, and you can see this. But good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Isaac from AHDB. Super excited to bring it here live from Lama, even though somebody forgot to put money in the meter. For those of you that don't know, so Lama is a massive practice show. You can kick as many ties as you can get around in 2 days. But we're here to, with the AgriLeader circle, talking about how we can bridge the gap between farm and fork. AHDB has just relaunched the We Eat Balanced campaign on Boxing Day, live on TV adverts, on demand adverts, YouTube, in store, in newspapers, so everywhere. And the last time we did it, we had a really good uptakes, and between 5 and 8% intention uplift from consumers on questions like, and is it naturally produced, is it sustainably produced? So a really good campaign, and we're very excited to talk about that and with everybody here tonight, look at how we can build that trust, how we can increase that connection with the consumer. So without any further ado, let's introduce everybody. Rebecca, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca, a mixed farmer from North Yorkshire.
Hello, I am Thomas Pemberton, dairy, beef and sheep, North England.
I'm Amy Jackson. I'm in agricultural PR, communications, and I've also done some research about what the public think about farming.
So I'm Isaac, working for AHDB in the AgriLeader team.
I'm Charlotte, I'm a beef and sheep farmer from Cumbria.
I'm Charlie, I'm a beef, sheep and arable farmer from about half a mile that way, so yeah, between Birmingham and Coventry.
So I'm Joe Seels. I'm a beef and arable farmer from South Yorkshire. Go on.
Sure. For a bit of extra jeopardy, we've got Flavian Obiero that's due to join us any minute, so he'll come and sit on the chair over there.
Who knows better on what time?
Yeah, what have we got? And maybe he switched the lights on. Right, so let's talk a bit about the We Eat Balanced campaign. Charlie, Tom, you've both been involved with it. So what were your thoughts on it, and what's your, why did you get involved?
Yeah, so the We Eat Balanced campaign, obviously pushing it. I think the big thing for us, what the AHDB did, and that's the first thing I ever did with AHDB, interesting enough. Good thing about it, it was obviously, we did a little bit of promotion for it, but when I saw it, it was with people outside of farming. I think that's the important thing. The AHDB, what the money gets spent on, what the levy money gets spent on, is people outside of farming, because they aren't in it. I'm preaching to the choir to a degree. Yeah. There was the doctor, what was his name again? Sorry.
Dr. Ranch.
Dr. Ranch, yeah, he did an amazing post on his social medias, got a huge traction, I think 300,000 views, and I think that's where the money is good spent. Obviously, me pushing it, we eat balanced diet. It's not all about eating meat, it's not all about eating veg, it's about eating everything. So it worked really well for me, and I really liked it.
Charlie?
Yeah, same. So kind of different to Tom. I worked with HDB on a campaign before, had a really good experience of it. It'd been received really well, so I was really confident going into it that it was going to be done well. But again, I think it's really important to kind of change that that stereotype and that face of farming, and yeah, getting that out to the people that we are feeding, rather than, like you say, preaching to the choir. Everyone we're speaking to on socials here, a lot of them are people that are actively interested in what we do already. They agree with what we're saying. So it's getting out and changing the narrative in that wider audience.
And let's be honest, if a doctor's telling you that a balanced diet is the way to go, and he's got a profile on other platforms as well, he's not just a random doctor, he's on mainstream TV, the public trust him. Yeah. And actually, public do trust the farmers, but we need that extra bit of help from somebody else who has that extra credibility.
Yeah, 100%. So a doctor isn't just going to say something just to be out there. Do you know what I mean? An influencer, you can do whatever an influencer. A doctor's got credibility behind it.
Yeah, credibility.
I think that
building trust.
Yeah, that's a big thing that happens.
Well, they trust a doctor, don't they?
Yeah.
This one is specifically around B12 and how good that is, and how that is, a very big part of meat and dairy diets. The previous one were on irons, and again, so that's something that is really in a balanced diet, and the only way you can really get that. Amy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about putting the facts out there, isn't it? I mean, people can make their own decisions, but they need to have the facts. It's important that they know
the wider picture and they understand about balanced diets. Absolutely.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that we can push that B12 is like the only way you can get that is from meat and dairy products, without it being what do you call it, like a vitamin tablet or something.
Yes.
It's not natural, is it? Like eating that balanced diet is a way to get it.
I think we're all kind of in that boat that you've got to eat everything. I keep pointing to, you've got to eat your veggies, you've got to eat your meat. We're not smashing. You've got to just eat meat. You've got to just eat veggies. It's all about a balance.
It's like,
Well, yeah,
like when
everything
I'm
as a
feeding people, like I feed them a bit of this and a bit of that, and we mix it all together and we make it balanced. Like,
But I think also with the nutrient thing, I think it's really misunderstood and misinformation, because a lot of times either it's supplementary or it will be kind of advertised, oh, it's contained in this vegetable or that plant-based food, but it's not absorbable. So somebody is thinking, oh, I'm getting it from my plant-based food, but they're not getting it in the same way and in the right way. So I really worry about misinformation. I think probably on social media, we see it all the time, and we're worried about saying the wrong thing, but we want to combat it as well. And I guess that's the reason why a lot of us are here today and take the time to do videos and post on social media, because we want people to just to have the facts and then they can decide. Yeah, definitely.
Thirdly, just a bit of a plug there for AHDB. We've got something that a department that looks at that. If you see something that's truly false, or something you suspect is false, check@ahdb.org.uk, send that in and we'll investigate it. Amy, you've just done your PhD, congratulations. What, specifically looking at consumer perceptions, what were some of the findings you got from that?
Well, one of the big things that struck me is, I mean, we've been talking about consumers, and consumers are people who consume our products. But actually, what's really important is the public, is everybody, our citizens, because they also drink water, breathe air, they live next to farms, and actually we probably need to expand it a bit and think more widely about the public, because the people who don't eat meat and dairy are also audiences. They can also be concerned about what we do. So the first thing was, let's sort of think more broadly about citizens and public and not just about consumers.
Yeah.
Also, I think the public have got skin in the game here. We think that farmers are the experts, and they are, but then we think that people don't understand farming, and maybe because they don't have the technical knowledge, they maybe shouldn't comment. But actually, people do care a lot, because they breathe the air, drink the water, but also they care about the animals. They really do care about animals, and they want to see that farmers care as well. And that's really important. And that's actually thinking about Tom's videos in particular. I was just looking at one of them the other day, and he's put a cow brush up, and he's so excited about this cow brush, and looking at the comments underneath.
So was the cows.
Yeah. No, he was more excited.
It is because, like, as a livestock farmer,
Yeah.
which I am, obviously, like, you want the best for your animals.
Yeah.
And yes, I've known from the day dot, the pet lambs, and we fed them lambs. We know where our meat comes from, we know where our food comes from, to make sure that those animals have the best possibility in life.
Yeah.
And then when we do eat them, it's all natural. And that was the exciting thing, that these cows could enjoy themselves a little bit more on the farm. It was making me happy because I know they'd be happy, and it all works.
But you know what was great is, you look at the comments under the video, and people say, I love this guy because he's so happy that his cows are happy.
Yeah.
That's what people want to know.
Yeah,
They want to know you care about
But
them.
when we care about our cows and they are happy, Tom will see an increase in his milk.
Yeah.
We're doing this. We love making cows happy, and it's good for business.
Profitable as well,
Like,
isn't it? Yeah.
But that's the big thing, is what I found is people want to know you care, and they also want to know you care about the things they care about, that you're relatable, that you share their
I
values.
don't see anything we do as anything profound, we're not really going out and fighting for it, but we're doing the daily jobs and showing them in a really positive light. And I think that builds more trust than, one massive big push. I think it just is, just chipping away at those little tiny, misconceptions that people have got. And I think that makes a big difference, because it just is honest farming, isn't it? Like, you have put a cow brush up, and you were going to do it regardless of whether you videoed it. That's the thing.
I think you've touched on something there of honest farming,
Yeah.
because that happens. It's amazing. And I think the important thing to do is not just show the rosy side of it. We could all just show the rosy side, and we all do it, and everyone's got their own platforms and their own right here. Like, we've done a cow doing the splits before, because that happens. It's not all rosy. There are good with the bad. And I think sometimes the bad get pushed because everyone likes to see what they say in newspapers. If it bleeds, it leads, which is a horrific saying, but it's true.
Yeah.
So, but you've got to show the bad and the good, because then when people are consuming your food, they show you. I've shown them the bad things. These do happen, but we're trying our best to make it not happen. We're doing preventions, but it will happen.
And I
Do
think
you know what I
I think in there as well, people want to see how you feel about it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, people, the reason that we've got followers between us is because people like to see the person behind that job.
Yes.
They like to see the human side of it. They like to see that, without sounding horrific, that we do feel when something bad happens, that it does upset us when you lose an animal, something like that. Like they like to see that human side of
It's
us too.
empathy, isn't it?
It is,
You know,
and
they
that,
want-
and
yeah.
that then
What
as
is
well.
what is that balance? You know, and how do we
Yeah.
find that balance? Because we you know, want to show farming is real, but then also you know, some things could be just interpreted in the wrong way. So
I
how do we
think
find
it's
that?
having a
Too much,
respect,
yeah.
Right.
that respect
Yeah,
aspect of it.
Right.
I've actually got a question for Charlotte on this, because obviously Charlotte wasn't from a farming background.
No.
Mm.
And I'm interested to know your perceptions on the realities. So the realities which we now see day to day,
Yeah.
did you know they existed? Were you shocked by them? How do you feel about it?
I hadn't a clue about farming in general, and I mean no knowledge whatsoever. How I've stumbled on my dream path. Honestly, the odds are against anybody to get into farming, and how I've managed to do it, it's just been a stroke of luck that I enjoy it and I love it. I didn't have a clue about anything, and luckily I have Roy's very supportive, but he's also, like those of you who have met him, he's quite hard. And he said, go out and you learn, go and make your own mistakes. And it's one of my first jobs was go and mother that calf on. Now, for someone who's come from a non-farming background to be faced with an animal of that size, and then a kicking animal of that size, not just, it didn't want that calf. And that was my job to put it on. So I learned the hard way, I think, from the bottom up, and it gave me an overall respect, which has pushed me to share the story more, because I understand why people are so concerned, because I would be as well. And I mean, my friends from Preston, like I have a friend who's a teacher, and she genuinely texted me one day and said, can cows walk up steps? It was a conversation in the staff room. And although it's silly, it shows the lack of knowledge that people do have on basic things. And that's why I think we're doing such a good job between us.
I think that cow and calf example is really, really good, because it's showing that you could have just left it. You could have said, well, that calf's never going to make it with that mother, and ignored it. But it shows that human element, that you still have an instinct to look after that animal, and that is there, whether you're from a farm or not.
Oh, when things go wrong, honestly, it genuine, like you all will know it really, and you can't like, we had a bull that it had an abscess in its, not to go too much detail, it was very poorly anyway. I know, yeah, sorry. It had an abscess somewhere, it shouldn't have had an abscess anyway, and it ended up being put down. And I took a video at the time of me sat at the kitchen table in tea, and I was, oh my, I can't even tell, I was heartbroken, but I didn't post it, because I think sometimes there is a step too far. And you don't want to go over that line to make it unpalatable for people, because you lose your audience as well.
That is my question about balance. So,
Yeah.
you guys, you've all, active on social media, you've got your following. We've talked about some other stuff with the doctor. What other ways can and should we engage, or how do we push that message even further?
I think getting into schools and
Yeah.
targeting that younger generation, it's something I'm really passionate. I do the farmer time stuff. And we have a lot of groups out, like whether it be Scouts and Cubs and school groups, and it's drilling it into that pliable age. They're young, they're learning, they're willing to take on information, they're not judgmental about things. I think that is so important. Getting it back into the curriculum somehow.
So we'll touch on that, but tell us a bit more about farm times.
So for those of you that don't know, Farmer Time is a scheme where it's getting farmers video chatting to school kids direct from the farm. So farmers don't actually have to leave the farm. They don't have to go into the schools, because that's time consuming. You can soon lose half a day doing that kind of thing. But it's taking 10-15 minutes to speak to a class of children. You try and keep the same class, and you build a relationship with them. You nurture that relationship. You show them what you're doing through the year, tie it in with their curriculum, and you show them what you're doing, and it can
What
be.
do you do? Just like film and you walk
Yeah,
around
literally,
farm and
like it's like,
yeah.
hi kids, what are you
James
doing?
likes the sound of that. James likes
I'm expanding today.
Appreciate it. If you want to watch more, go to Joe Seels.
Yes, we get all the followers out.
This is my merch. This is my
Yeah, so any other thoughts on schools and getting into schools?
Well, no, I was actually just going to say a bit about the importance of people seeing a real life farmer and hearing from real life farmers, because what I found in my research is I talked to 60 people and spent like an hour with each of them asking them all about farming, and they see all these images, like even if they watch Country File, they'd see pipes and tubes and gates and mechanization, and they would form a vision, and they're worried about what farming's like, and they don't understand necessarily what that picture means. But then when they meet a farmer, they say, oh, but there's this woman down the road, she's got a robotic milker and she loves her cows and blah, blah, blah. So that balances that image she's got. And that's so important, because the more farmers they know and understand the motives of, then the less these sort of images are going to be misunderstood, or negative images are going to take root. So that the farmer interaction is really important. So they understand you share their
Do you know what
values,
really warmed me at one point? We went to Yorkshire Show and I was stood next to the sheep pens, and I heard a girl who was clearly not from farming. She had 3 kids with her, and she was explaining to her husband how fly stripe worked in sheep. And I thought, do you know what? Someone has nailed it. And from TikTok.
Yeah.
And I thought that is what it's about. That is telling someone why we do what we do and showing them the bad sides of it, but also showing them like the preventative measures that we take. And she really got it. And I thought, do you know what? Someone has made a difference to that there.
So rewarding.
Yeah, it was.
I was going to ask if there are farmers watching who might be thinking, I want to be more approachable to the public, or easy for the public to understand. What would be your one kind of tip in making it? Is it not using technical terms? Is it doing it on video? What's the way, or a key? I mean, there can't be one key, but what's the key?
Everybody think about that. If you're struggling with visual or audio, go onto the AHDB.
AHDB YouTube.
Thank you,
everybody.
Joe. Oh no, send.
Oh no, sorry, no, we're not doing that.
Well, so put questions in. We'll try and answer the questions. Tell us where you're from. Tell us whether you're farm or public. So put it in there. So, sorry, and Rebecca's question.
Yeah, is there a kind of magic key that farmers can use or, harbour when they're trying to address and be as approachable as possible to the public?
I think that what we tend to try and do is we say we want to educate the public. So we tell them and they change their minds. Actually, we need to listen to them, listen to people's concerns and meet them in the middle, and maybe think about changing what we do. And sometimes, you were talking about not being afraid to talk about the difficulties. People don't expect perfection. They want honesty, and they want to know what the difficulties are. And as long as people we're trying and we're seeing the issues, and we're recognizing and listening to people and say, yeah, we understand, you care about this, we hear you. That's what it takes, is people just want to be listened to and heard, and their concerns listened to, because they've got skin in the game too.
I think the perfection as well, when we show something as too perfect, it's not quite as trustworthy as showing it as.
It's got to be authentic, yeah.
Like that.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
people
That's
they
a
can
good thing
relate
about
to.
YouTube and like social media. It's not perfect. It's not polished. It's not like highly edited. Like I do a video.
Instagram.
Charlie, what were you going to say?
You need people want it to be relatable.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if it's perfect, it's not achievable. It's not.
And when farmers sometimes talk about, oh, we get really early and we're really hard. I mean, that's fine, but so do a lot of other people. And I think it's about reaching out on the fact that you're also, you've got brothers and sisters and you care about your animals, and you are upset if something happens. I mean, what everybody does, they need to know.
You don't want people to be grateful for you. You're just trying to put your message across.
Yeah.
And I think on that hours thing, that's really interesting, because it really depends on the type of farming system you're doing.
Yeah.
Because in lambing, like
Talking from the Llama show.
you have late nights, early mornings in lambing. Dairy is consistently early mornings. But then I've seen some people who try and finish earlier in winter. So I think you're right. It's relatable that you're busy in farming. There's always a job to do. Yeah. But what's not relatable is us preaching being how tired we are. But people often have that perspective, and we just go along with it. You're a farmer, you must be so busy. Well, yeah, I'm really busy in harvest and I'm really busy in lambing. But in the run up to lambing, I'm more odd jobbing. There's always an odd job, but I'm more odd jobbing. And if I had a day away from the farm, some jobs won't get done, but it's not life threatening.
But you've also probably got hobbies and other things, like you're the same as other people.
Tom, the dairy farmer, wants to come in here.
I've got a bit of a curveball here, and I don't know how much. Sorry to say if I'm good. So one of the biggest TV programs is Country File. Is it too perfect? in my opinions, I know it's a massive curveball, and farming, we talk about it. I get comments of people outside of ag, and I'm sorry to bring it up, like on this, but I think I'm just bringing up what everyone's saying, is that for too long, we used to watch it at uni 10 years ago, Country File Sunday. Now, no one watches it because it's too perfect. It's not right in the farming. And I think that could have ruined it for farmers, because now they're portrayed to have this perfect thing. Everything's bedded up with 2 foot of straw.
Everybody's making artisan cheese. So then when you get a farmer like myself who's not making artisan cheese, I'm not like selling out of a farm shop and things like that, then people are like, well, he must be that other type of farmer then that's like in the media, in I want to say like there's a lot of bad images portrayed by the other side of the media, so it must be that type.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think media has moved on. It is, and what were 10 years, what were accepted 10 years or put for 10 years now is very different with social media.
You can't. It's what was 10 years ago, what they put up, and this is why we're chatting here to talk about this discussion. 10 years ago, and they probably got a little bit softer, and now it's got so soft that you can't put anything up apart from my social media. I can put what I want because I'm controlling it. That they had a massive handful, they had a massive like wedge of people they could see, and they've not helped us at all. So I'm sorry to dig them in here, but I think
they do, however, put farming into the living rooms of
that is a good thing.
Every Sunday. They're not necessarily maybe in the context that we want it putting in, but they do reach a wider audience that we could never do.
I get that exactly. You've kind of said it, but then you've put 6 million into it of a perfect farm.
Yeah,
you wouldn't get 6 million watching it if it was more. If it was more gritty. They want the glossy magazine.
Yeah,
version.
different horses for different horses.
Like free range organic is what Country Files for. That's what my comments saying.
But at least 6 million people are getting
something.
Charlie,
but they're getting the right thing.
It's a good start, but is it the best we can do?
If they're getting the wrong thing, 6 million people getting the wrong thing or something, it's not helping, it's hindering.
And does it set us up to fail?
Yes,
when the real truth of farming makes it sound cynical and negative, but when the real truth of things going wrong happens, can people digest it?
Isn't it a fact that you know the farming or the image of farming is this bubble over here? What we don't want is to burst the bubble, but it's kind of moving that over, and Country File and what we're doing here has got a role in that. There's different horses for different courses. What we're doing here is not everybody's cup of tea, trust me.
So what about, when you have Country File and it's featuring something, what about you doing something and saying, this was on Country File, but actually I just want to pick this a bit more.
So from your research, is it like, do you think that people see farmers as this Country File, like?
Yeah, loads of, as I said, interviewed 60 people, and because I spent so much time talking to them, I really got a feel of where they get their visions of farming from, and loads of people watch Country File.
There's not even that much farming on there anymore.
I know, but they love it.
Let's move on from Country File. The BBC at the podium.
That's my last little comment on it. I'm so sorry. I know. So if I get a great video, it gets 100,000 views. Country File gets 6 million. I disagree with what they say. I get 100,000 views on it, and that's what does it work out at? What, 2%? I'm talking to 2%.
That's not perfect.
I know, but that's one thing. So I'm sorry.
Country File is there to do a job, but there's other things. So I've got a comment here sent from Charlie's Instagram. Why isn't farming in the national curriculum? So we go to schools to learn, but no one learns about foods and where it comes from. So we touched on that a bit earlier.
Yeah, but I mean, this is something I feel so strongly about. Like, why isn't it taught? I remember when I was at school, so I'm 27 now, but I remember doing geography at GCSE, and there was like a little corner of a page of a textbook, and that was on food and farming. Like, food sustains us. Why is that so? Like, why is there nothing being taught about that? Even like food tech, there was nothing about where it came from, why we should be using certain types of produce and the sourcing of that produce. Like, there was nothing on it. It's so important. We wouldn't be here without it. I think, why is it overlooked? I was to say, I think talking about it as a combination and weaving it into other subjects, because the simple fact of it is we are never going to get agriculture as like a straight
you know, a straight qualification, or we're a long way off that,
Hold
let's be
my
honest.
beer.
But it can be weaved into geography, science,
Yeah.
food tech.
Yeah.
However, and the thing I remember from school is it was the information that was weaved in, it would be about farms which maybe aren't representative of most British farms,
Yeah.
and they were more intensive and talking about use of hormones and things like that. Well, if you're buying meat with hormones in, it certainly isn't from this country, and something's gone wrong.
Just to give
Yeah.
AHDB a big plug here, so we work with the British Nutrition Foundation on something called Food Effect of Life, where we go and teach the teachers. So we've got some workshops through all January through to March in London and Edinburgh, 150, 120 teachers at a time coming in and, you know, giving them resources that exactly fits into the curriculum, so they can just take it off the shelf and put it in front of the class, so make it easier for them.
And then they can use that all their career.
Exactly,
Right,
and it's getting that bias we talked before it started this, and changing some of that bias. So if you want to get involved with that, look at the AHDB Education Resources Order Form, and you can get involved with that, and you know, and talk to you if you're a school governor, so make sure some of the teachers go on to that.
And there was something on there as well that if you're having school visits out as well, you can use that as
Yes,
well.
totally,
So that's
totally.
something- Yeah,
Well, the good
something
thing as
we-
well is if it's the British Nutrition Foundation, it's going to be proper,
Credible.
credible. Which is
So
great.
school visits must be a good thing to have, really, because like kids are going to remember that. Like if it's a city kid and they've gone to a farm, like they're going to remember that for the rest of their life, let alone like
As
that
a-
year or week.
What time do you call this?
Time.
So everybody, so we've got Flavian. Flav, just introduce yourself very quickly to the audience. We're talking about schools, but some quickly, what do you do and some your handles and all of those things on social?
Flavian Obiero, pig farmer, Hampshire, handles the Kenyan pig farmer everywhere. Twitter is Kenyan pig farmer. Facebook, ignore it, don't go there.
Keep it simple. Excellent. So we just talking about some getting into schools and some getting in front of because I know some, for instance, you had Sparshot College there recently. You know, what kind of do you do in that area? Let's give you some airtimes and under pressure straight away.
Well, obviously I went to Sparshot, so it was good to have the students there, and especially with John, the pigman at Sparshot. He taught me a lot of things I know about pigs. So it's good to have the students there. I'm a bit under pressure with John because if I said anything wrong, he would be like, I didn't tell you that. So, and also just for them to see a different setup of pig farming, because Sparshot is indoors, ours is indoors and outdoors. And then talking about sort of the real life stuff, like the whole cost of production, how much people get when you sell the product, sort of the whole public perception of farming, what's right, what's wrong. Should we be eating animals? Should we not? Yeah, so yeah, all those conversations with students, it's good to give them that knowledge at that age, so that when they get to adults, rather than follow some famous person, tell them to eat cardboard and avocados, they make an informed choice whether they want to eat meat or not.
We had a good conversation earlier about some famous people telling them to eat balanced diet. Got a question here from Ed Lovett on Rebecca's Instagram. Should there be more open farms and spaces for public to access and visit, including schools? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if farms aren't open, because you know we've still got to be working farms. Our key aim is to produce food, but even if more farms can offer that space for children, people to come out and have a look, like a lambing open day, open farm Sunday, massive one,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. More people.
But the only problem is that what we've chatted about before is because we're mad busy, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
obviously they're taking these grants away, single farm payment.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something.
People, yeah, it
Open
might be
farm
spurred
up on a
into
single-
it,
and
yeah.
that's a way to get single farm payment. That's a way to get a grant to bring more farms into it, and education and stuff. That could be something.
I think one of the problems, you kind of get to a certain point with Open Farm Sunday where you've had as many people in as you can, and then the harder to reach kids are maybe in inner cities and so on. So that's a real challenge, which I think we have to think about.
It's like geography is a massive issue, isn't it, as well? Like, how do you get children from in the middle of a city to rural Cumbria
Yeah.
to see a farm. It's sometimes just not practical. Even the distance down the motorway is too much when, you know, well, Joe is in the middle of a city. So there you go. Your farm is-
What Charlie was doing before, when
Yeah.
you did it all from your phone, weren't you?
Yeah.
You know, technology is amazing. We live in the
Separating it down.
21st century.
The
That's
questions
amazing.
they come out with as well. And they're so resilient as well, these kids. Like, you think, I remember the first time I did it, and it was like, I was like, oh God, like, what can you talk about? And the questions they come out, like, they're tough. They're not going to get upset about those things. Like, and these were kind of 7, 8-year-olds. Like, they're tougher than we give them credit for. So
I like
you can be more honest with them
Do
than
you-
you think.
Do you know how many farmers do that?
I don't, but I
Not
can
enough.
find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, not enough.
I
Yeah.
don't know how many.
It's one of those things where we get into a stage in society now where social media, people have access to everything. And as farmers, if we don't tell the story like we know it and be open about everything we do, then other people are going to do it for us. And if they do it for us when they do it wrong, we can't blame them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we've
you're
got to
right.
put
You've got to
ourselves
be
out
there,
there.
haven't you?
Your Toms and all the people here, and we have to put ourselves out there. It's tedious, you all know that. It's tedious. Like
Yeah.
you're bedding up, like, oh, let me film myself bedding up. It's such a dream job. Yeah, people are doing it, so we need to show them. Because I think if we've got the public on board, supermarkets will listen to the public,
Yeah.
politicians will listen to the public. So we just need to have them on our side.
We said before, like just the daily grind, showing
Yeah.
people just chipping away that little bit, you know, this is bedding up.
Literally,
This is a
I
cow
do a
growing.
video every day and I'm strawing up every morning. But it's like, look, this is what we're doing every single
It's
day.
the truth,
I'm
isn't it? You
looking-
can't argue with the truth.
If somebody wants to say, oh, you know, farmers don't look after the animals, it's like, well, just watch my video every day. Like, I'm bedding them up, I'm feeding them up, we're injecting them, worming them, like it's all on there. Like,
Rebecca?
check it out.
I was going to say, I think I was probably a bit naive about, obviously it's so easy, we step out and we're on a farm. So I was definitely naive to how difficult it is for people not from farms to get to a farm. But I went to a city farm in London, Surrey Docks Farm, and I kind of walked into it. And if I'm honest, I was a bit cynical thinking, well, it's going to be a hobby farm, a couple of pigs here, a couple of sheep there. But then when you get there, you realise that children don't necessarily need to see the fact that you're lambing 350 sheep or you're milking 300 cows. What they need to see is the fact that that animal, and this was a really good one because the animals did go off for meat at some point. So what they saw was not the fact that, oh yeah, I've got more sheep than you have. What they saw was animals being grown and reared for food production and being looked after in a certain way. So I think maybe we as farmers have very high expectations of what we want to show the public, which aren't feasible. So a city farm, as I said, I was cynical, was actually, it was in the middle of London. You got off the bus and I smelt mucking. But that is a talking point in itself for these children.
It's
I think
creating
that-
spaces,
it's
isn't
such
it?
a,
for people
it's
to
such a
go.
great point. I think we think I think it's an amazing point. We think that because you're milking sheep, because you've got 350 sheep, or you've got, you know, we're behind the biggest combine in the world, probably not.
Yeah,
Okay.
anybody wants to
But
see that.
people don't care if it's a 40-foot header or a 20-foot header. If you're outside a farm and they just go, wow, that's massive. You know what I mean? I think that's 100%. We look it into the, we've got to be doing all this.
Good comment here on Charlotte's YouTube saying, seeing a perfect field of corn is great, but learning from you guys what farming is really like is so educational. Buchanan is like me, you know, so, well, that's a job. that
That's
is a-
why, that's literally why we all spend the time doing.
It's nice,
comments
and
like that.
do you know what? That isn't unusual for people to say things like that, and it's so nice, and it does make, you know, like Joe said, it's TV is Flav, isn't it? It literally is like you go, oh God, I've got a video, you know, me putting cows for a crush, and you could do without it sometimes, but things like that make it worthwhile because you are making even a small difference, but you are making a difference.
Yeah, the interaction is just so rewarding.
Yeah. Got another one here saying I'm a native breed sheep farmer, putting videos on Instagram, doing it in bite-sized snippets, works well. What do people think? So a bit of advice for other people trying to get into it.
Yeah.
What channels and social and ways of doing that?
Well, do what you're doing, really. I think
Yeah.
Instagram, you know,
Yeah, on
TikTok,
anything.
TikTok's
TikTok, I think,
Big
is aimed
thing.
at a younger audience, which I think is where we need to be going. And I
look at
know,
Farmer Will.
yeah.
Just about the biggest program in the UK, Love Island, what's got 1 million on TikTok? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe slightly volatile though.
The
Well,
conversations
Well excited to see him.
about, because I know it sounds bad, but some of the conversation they've had about politics and other kind of issues like that. So I'm so fascinated to see what some of the other contestants actually think about farming and how able Will is, I guess, to relay.
Yeah, how
realities.
willing is Will to address actual farming.
I think so.
Not maybe dancing around with lambs, which I'm guilty of. Don't get me wrong, I am on
I
TikTok.
think so because
Like-
if you look at the videos, he's clipping it. He's clipping it
Yeah,
out.
he's
The
clipping
muppet,
the
it's
arse out, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
He shows it real, doesn't
Yeah, he does.
Did you see this
Yeah, you
video?
maybe sound
That's
maybe it's
fantastic.
like, oh, like she's got a dirty bottom, but is that the funny bit
Yeah,
that people are
but
saying?
is that the way you educate it?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Maybe
yeah.
the normal way that we do it.
Yeah, there's no
Do
point.
you think we, as farmers and people in this as an industry, are a bit harsh on what you said? Oh, will he dance around and does that?
I
About
think
the country file conversation.
The whole
Should we just accept what
the-
is good?
the judginess comes from us. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be more worried about what a fellow pig farmer is going to say about Flav's on this, the AHDB thing. What's he going to say? Levy pays money or whatever. If they want to come, they can sit here. I don't mind. That would
Yeah,
save me
yeah.
getting stuck in traffic. But I think,
Running across the whole.
yeah. Farmers are their own enemy. And
Yes.
the sooner we work together,
I said you'll
the
know.
better.
You'll know everyone posting stuff like that. It's not the comments from outside of farming. It's the
I'm not
comments
negating,
inside of
yeah,
farming.
it's the farmers that hurt, like that's the thing, and I was
Yeah.
guilty of reading them all
Yeah.
and being really annoyed about it. We've had this conversation before, and I was really annoyed reading some of the comments about me. And then, like Roy said to me, "You're putting yourself out there. You've got to expect these things. Just stop letting it bother you." And then now I'm just like, "Do you know what?"
So talking about Roy, the two skid steers that you bought, he's happy with that.
I'm on a Merlot, thank you.
No, I was just going to say that I was in a conversation the other day where some vets were criticising something they'd seen, not from anyone here, but something online from a very, very well followed account. And I was saying, what are you criticising? They said, well, the technique they were using, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look at the number of followers, and people absolutely love this. And what they see is somebody caring for an animal on a farm and every time doing their best to care for the animal and make the animal better, and they love it. I said, who cares if the technique's not what you would do now? It's got to get the bigger picture.
I think being scared of doing something wrong stops people putting themselves forward, which I have also, like I have drafts on my TikTok that I will not post. I should just post them and go, yeah, well, whatever. But I would be scared of what people would think of me or say. Like I put a post on Instagram last night and it was a poly calf behind me, and I said, and you saw it, didn't you? And it was the morality of, what do you do with this calf? Do you put it to sleep out of its misery, or do you do what the general public will want you to do and absolutely kill yourself trying to make it better, and it's maybe not going to have the outcome that you want? Or do you not show it at all? Like, what's the best thing to do? And I think that puts you in a bit of a position that you are maybe not comfortable being in, because people are looking at you for the answer and you go, I don't know what to do.
What do you think, Charlton?
Sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say, what I worry about as well when farmers are quite critical of other farmers, how on earth are we going to make agriculture an enticing industry for people to come into if all they see is farmers being critical? And sometimes it's needed. Sometimes people are doing things the wrong way because that's life. But how on earth can we get people? We're struggling with people to come in, and no wonder when sometimes the comments from farmers are all negative.
That's exactly a comment on your Instagram at the moment. How easy is it to get into farm, even on a small holding too?
Just kind of going on from what you said, you look at the British Farming Forum.
Oh, don't ever on it, ever.
It's Twitter, because it's just I put something on a couple of weeks ago, and you just get someone making a dig, and you're like, oh, this is
Listen, I've had some hedging on. How can you be critical of hedging? It's hedging.
You go back
I
to
think it's all
Instagram,
about
it's much
common ground.
nicer.
Is so finding that common ground. Sir Charles Godfrey last week at the OFC said, finding common ground between all parties concerned about the environment is the only way we're going to solve the climate crisis. So how do we find that common ground with the consumer, but also within farming?
Because the consumer wants to know that, well, majority of them, maybe not all of them, but they want to know that they're making the conscious decisions as to where their food has come from, that they're making that right decision, knowing that the food that they're eating has had the smallest environmental impact and things like that. That's what they want to know. And that's
I think farmers are guilty of not showing what they're doing for the environment as well.
Yeah. And it's all good saying about British farming, as in I'm an import myself, so I'm keen for things to be imported and exported. This country would stop without tea.
I'm a tea drinker.
And I think back British farming as a consumer and say why. Show me why I should back British farming.
Yeah.
And we don't do enough of that. We do it when we're in the shit, like when
Yeah, you're right.
the British in
Against the
2020,
law, yeah.
let's do biting to British. We should have done biting to British 10 years ago.
And we should give people that permission
Yeah.
of we're doing the right thing for the environment, right thing for health, right thing.
But I think it's actually a bit more about we're doing what we can. We're trying. We hear what people
It's not
say.
perfect,
We hear,
I think.
yeah. And I think that's it. Is just maybe we need to just ditch the we're the best. We're
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, you're right.
And-
You're so right.
And it's all about the constant. We're never going to rest because we always want to be that bit better and
Because
always
it's
try.
the best according to who.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
like
Mm.
look at the whole New Zealand, Aussie. I've got friends, Kiwi friends, Aussie friends. I can't sit here and say British pork is the best because what if theirs is better than ours
Yeah.
in their setting?
But is
Or
that
America
trying your
or-
best?
Mm.
Yeah.
So we're good at what we do. Aussies are good at what they do in their setting. If you're going to have 1 million acres with cows on it, no way you're going to have the same system as here because it's a completely different setup.
I think something we always play on, and like we're doing the beef and lamb boxes and that, and something I always play on is that you are supporting me to get better.
Yeah.
Like you coming to us
Good
and you showing us your support,
Yeah.
you know, with your money, or even just like that moral support is helping me, our farm, other farmers. That's helping us improve because we're not perfect, but we're heading in the right direction.
I have a question on, can AHDB, why can't it support British? It can't actively say that it's supporting British, why not?
So that is to do with the rules of how and what we can support with a statutory instrument, and there's only certain things that we can say. We are challenging that, and we're hoping that that the law on that would change. But so that is something at the moment we would be breaking the law if we do
Is that because of how the levies?
how the levy is collected. Back on the environment, so we had a comment from Rob Scarlett on your YouTube. Why isn't farming and not selling the environmental improvements more? You know, things like hedgerows, biodiversity. You know, you guys do a lot of work on that. And how do we, you know, show that to the public and you know some of the examples of what you do?
I think this might be controversial, but having people in the countryside is actually very beneficial to see for themselves that there are birds, to see for themselves that there are hedges. I mean, we've had cover crops in which there's a lot of talk about cover crops, but for us, they've worked really well. So they're not only helping the soil, but when you look in them in the run up to winter, November, they were flowering. We had bees and things in our fields in November. So I think getting the public to see them, and actually we're going to have to do that on social media because we're not going to get everybody onto the farm, but just being honest, because I think the arable side as well, unless it's in a big tractor, it's not shown as much on Instagram. So I think showing what you're doing in the fields, I think it's tractors and livestock which gets the kind of views on the whole. To show actually what's going on in the fields, I think is really, really interesting. And as I said, see the birds, see the wildlife, because we have loads and we're increasing it. We've got more hedgerows now than we did 50 years ago. But the narrative that's portrayed in the media is farmers rip out hedges to make fields big. But we're not doing
ago,
that.
farmers were told to rip out hedges.
Yeah,
For
because we were
production.
hungry.
Yes.
So then farmers ripped out the hedges, and now they're doing what they're told, and people are forgetting the past. Like it was how it was, you know, a rep rolled into your yard and told you that, you know, production is the way forward, make more food. And then obviously now times have changed, but farmers haven't just ripped out the hedges for their own benefit. They were told to do that.
So how do we show to the public the hedges that you're planting, the biodiversity that's increasing?
Can I just say some of the most powerful stuff I've seen on social media is where farmers are out in the field and they're saying, I love this. Look at this block of lapwings.
Yeah,
I really that's the point, is people want to feel you care. So when you show you care and you say, I love the fact that there's this little bumblebee on this thing, you know, that really hits
I like
home, because
Tom,
you're getting
you get
pleasure.
genuinely
Yeah, you're getting
excited
pleasure
about
out of
doing
it.
stuff like it just is you, and I love it. I think
Yeah.
it gives you a certain enthusiasm for the industry, and you go, like cow brushes, woo!
Yeah.
Personal connection.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's what they love, is they want to see that
So
care.
it's the animal, the care for the animals, the care for the wildlife environment.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen it when like we've been planting maize and I've gone round the lapwing nest and everyone's like, oh wow, that's brilliant. Blah, blah. And it's like, well, we've just always done that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's-
Nobody actively wants to go through.
No, I know, and contractors also have done exactly the same thing, but it's seen by no one. And it
Just that
doesn't mean it
lapwing.
isn't happening just because it's not on social media. These guys are good guys in general, and they are not just going to, you know, plow into a curlew nest. they will go around it, you know.
But that's your evidence, isn't it? And that's showing actually every time they see that happening, that's adjusting people's perceptions of what happens in farming.
But I think there's a lot of things that we all do naturally that we forget we do. You kind of just do it as part and parcel.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe
I'd forget to
yeah.
promote that because
We just see it
You
as an
just do it,
everyday
yeah.
thing that we do, but
Yeah.
I think one thing which will be coming, and not just on the wider than the environment, so actually what you can see, we're going to start having foods where the carbon impact and the environmental impact is going to be labelled, so consumers will be actively able to make a choice with food that they see in the supermarket. I mean, I think that I have quite a lot of reservations about actually measuring carbon and all the process leading up to it. However, farmers are going to be more accountable than ever when it comes to labelling and what they sell. And we see it across, and I don't know if you're seeing it in milk, but there's a lot of sectors now where actually, if you can prove that you're improving your environmental impact or you have a lower impact or whatever, you're getting paid a premium, or you won't get paid as much if you're not doing it. So accountability is going to be very, very obvious for a consumer to see as we go down the line. You know, so we probably need to get these videos out and show that it's not just as factual as this has this emissions for that carrot. We need to show the story behind it, so we're not at risk of it being so academic and a number on a packet. We need to show there's a real person.
I don't think it's just for the promotion of the industry as well, because there's a lot of talk now, as again, very skeptical about carbon credits, but there's a lot of talk about biodiversity credits as well. And I think there's some real traction there. I think there's really something we can do with that. And so we're going to need to find a way to quantify that, and whether that is just by documenting it, then we need to get better at it.
Because we talk about how we do these and how people like to see stuff. They don't want to just read things and think, well, what does that kilogram of carbon actually mean? They want to see, well, actually, it's because we use this sort of establishment when we planted it, and therefore we only went across the field once with a tractor, as opposed to 3 or 4 times to get that plant growing. And things like that are more obvious than a random number, which actually means nothing.
It's almost like the new feed provenance of where does the food come from? How was it produced? Then you starting up your own charcuterie business.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially with environment health. But I think for me, something that's always baffled me, that like the cow sows or the female pigs that finish production, they get sent to Europe mainly, and then they get prices there quite cheaply. I think the lowest I've ever seen it recently is like 10p at Ashford Market for a fully grown boar.
Wow.
Yeah, 10p a kilo. And
Still, that's like ridiculous.
It's nothing. You don't even pay for your diesel. And then I've never seen the cured meats that we buy from Europe. I've never seen any for a low price. They're always sold at a premium price.
Someone's making some money out.
Yeah. So why can we not process it in this country? I'm hoping to do that.
And all that's it all ties together, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's the plan.
So, I mean, even if talking about saving input, saving fuel, saving food miles, are all about the environment, you know, stopping waste. It's all about the environment as well. So I think there's maybe more you could add on to your stories around that.
So we feed a lot of food waste that would
Yeah,
just go to
Yeah, we
landfill.
do. Yeah, we
So
do.
like,
Imagine the methane that's
See,
come out of that.
exactly.
But
That's
that's
what I'm
a
saying.
really
It's just
good-
wasted
It's a
otherwise.
really good story, because where are the animals going to be to eat that food waste if we don't have animals?
Yeah.
That's part of the cycle.
We had 1 million packets of crisps on there.
That was
Worked it out.
interesting. Yeah, that was
I
interesting.
mean,
I
did you
watched
feed
it.
for the
It
animals?
was a long time opening them.
Yeah, and bread. Yeah, did you know I watched the program? It was I think Warburton's, and they literally they know they're over making bread, like, you know, they're overproducing, and they know that, and they're overproducing on purpose just so that the competitors don't get in. They're not bothered. Like, is that not where we should be looking? Really?
I think it's very easy for us to harp on about food wastage though, and that's just planting the blame elsewhere, and it's
Yeah,
not
you're
really in our hands.
Yeah.
You know, we need to kind of, rather than going down that negative
never change that,
story.
could
No, we
Never.
can't, you know.
And Joe's
like
cows,
figures,
It's
thank you.
positive that
Yeah.
the livestock industry can use it.
At least it's
It's always going to happen.
I think we're better off going with that positivity of like, this is why it's
Yeah.
good, right?
yeah.
Although it's realistic, like people don't want the sad story.
No.
But we can help people with their food waste by actually showcasing what you can do more with the food that you have left over. Just because it's a leftover and it's finished with that meal, we're probably looking in the sense, because we're at home a lot, because we're farming, we can be a lot more adventurous and have the time to cook leftovers and things. Other people who are working away and then come back late need something instant. Well, actually, there's ways you can use leftovers and use them instantly. but people probably just don't know. So actually, we've got more of a job to do probably on the cooking side, as you know.
I think that's definitely.
Like
Yeah.
Flavian puts in there. I always do like pimp my leftovers. See,
Yeah.
sometimes leftovers taste better than what you actually like.
Yeah.
Roast. You
Absolutely.
could be eating sort of whatever was part of the roast on Wednesday because you're just changing it up, whether it's a curry or a sandwich or like Christmas. I don't want to see a roast for the next 2 months. You're eating so much roast meat on that day.
I just
Burgers are always better the next day. Oh,
go back to what Charlie said about optimism, and I think that is a really important point. Is there is a perception out there that farmers moan a lot and it's negative, and I think in a way they hear a lot about the unions trying to make a case about things that aren't right, but that pervades, that kind of gives you an identity. So when you're optimistic and you're positive, that makes a massive difference, because again, that's challenging that stereotype. So really important.
So we're here this evening, and the title was Bridging the Gap Between Farm and Fork. Do you guys think there is a gap? Is it a true, or is it something that is
huge
just
gap,
gone?
yeah.
Big. And I think it's only whilst there's lots of us trying, it is getting bigger. Like or it's the biggest it's ever been, at least. Like it's-
So do you think people are more interested in the food than they used to be as well?
I think
Clarkson's
they're
farm
more
come along.
Oh,
Boom.
definitely more
Brilliant,
interested.
I think
Sorry, we missed that point. Brilliant.
No, I was just saying like Clarkson's farm came along
Someone asked that comment.
and
before.
it just
Yeah.
like blew up. I don't
They-
think my YouTube would be what it is without Clarkson's farm. Like people
Yeah,
are
they-
interested in it now.
no matter how much of a plonker he is.
He made,
Yeah.
he made it relatable to both
A lot.
farmers and the consumer, which was bizarre
Yeah.
to watch because we were all laughing at him falling over a wall with mules and we all knew what was going to happen.
So happy, but when Landbox customers are like, oh, what do you think of it? And I love it, absolutely brilliant. And I think he's a right twonk half the time.
Yeah.
He's done so much good for British ag.
Yeah.
I think it's a really generational thing in that if you think of however many generations ago, 2, 3, more people were involved working in agriculture. Therefore, the relative who was working on a farm or in agriculture was very, very close. Now it's more distant and maybe not even traceable within people's lifetimes now as well. So to get that connection back is really, really hard. And somebody commented, I didn't quite see it. Basically, think how long it's taken for us to learn about agriculture. We're doing it every day. So imagine how hard it is for the public to learn. I mean, because it's second nature to us, we think, oh, why can't they just understand that?
Do you think some people in the past have been guilty of overcomplicating the message? Isn't that part of it?
Yeah.
So my wife's watching this, to be
Yeah.
honest, and she's a townie, and she admits she's a townie. But all people want from away from farming is quick information. Like you say, overcomplicated it, like bang, 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 done.
Too much jargon.
Positive, simple messages.
You know,
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah,
Just information. One go pass it on.
Yeah, that's my Instagram post out. Sorry, anybody else.
But I guess there's like we've said, finding this common ground. So different horses for different courses. There'll be different. People will look at different things. So
And a point one of my friends made the other day, Twitter, Oxford Farming Conference and Oxfordville Farming Conference, is that farmers need to get out of their silos and engage, because amongst farmers, I'd like to talk to someone on the way up here. Amongst farmers, there's so many little, your regen, your organic, your
I agree.
Yeah.
It's like, look, we're just trying to do good for the environment, provide food for people, and make a living. That's all we're doing.
I was listening
And
to
that's
a
a common
podcast on
ground.
the way down, exactly said that.
All these siloing, whilst we're wasting time trying to distinguish whether you're regen or whatever, whether you're going to wear Doc Martens or Air Maxes, go use that energy and make food and educate other people about making food.
Yeah.
We are.
It's as simple as that. It's not that hard.
No, and we are very good at playing victim still. So
Yes.
Yeah.
And
No, that's awful.
play that rain today.
right. So I'm going to go around quickly. So a quick synopsis of your thoughts on how we close that gap, and how we portray it, and how do we connect to our consumer a bit better. Right. I'm going to go with Joe first.
I think just more people telling their story. Not just us guys, but like just get to your friends. You might have like 100 friends on Facebook. Put a post up about what you're doing tomorrow.
Excellent. Charlotte?
I think while we're doing nothing, really profound, like I said before, little and often, showing people the daily, and I think that will build trust and just, chip away at them misconceptions that people have.
Amy?
listen to people, engage with people, don't assume we're always right, be prepared to meet in the middle and take their concerns seriously. They've got skin in the game too.
That conversation and listening, I think that's very important.
Really.
Rebecca?
We're probably all on the social media, but I think it has to be something which is digestible content. But my main thing would actually be not just schools, but showcasing that agriculture is a career as well.
Yeah.
And because if we have more people working in it, they can share the story of living it as a job and a life as well. So make it encouraging to work in, show people that ag colleges, etc., ag courses exist, and bring a load of people along with us, get them to do the job for us, you know, and particularly if they're coming from a non-farming background, that will drag even more people as well. Sorry, that was really long.
No, brilliant.
Yeah, that's very good.
Flav?
What everyone else has said, and I think rather than, I guess, when doing things on social media, once it starts getting sort of monetized, you could easily sort of almost chase that rather than the actual message. But I think we all here, I think like we all know the core message is trying to get people to do farming, learn about farming, engage with farming, understand farming, and understand that we're doing good for the environment. I think once you know that core message is there, I think someone said to me before, if you post something and you get 50 likes, sometimes you might think, oh, it's only 50. Could you imagine walking down the street and 50 people tell you, you did good today, man?
Yeah.
That's like a drop in the ocean. So it's just like remembering your original reason for doing it and you're just letting it grow itself. Yeah, I think.
Charlie?
Obviously, you know how passionate I am about the schools, massively. Going on what Flav said then, though, like encourage other people to do what we're doing, to tell our story, because you know we're be relatable. Like, but the more people out there doing it,
it's not hard either. Literally, it isn't any. It's not rocket science to face a camera at you and say, "I'm strawing out calves." It really isn't anything special.
If you're watching this, it's good at the start.
No. The destroying and the videos.
Maybe that should just be the next live stream. We all do like a react to us all watching each other, like Tom's.
Oh.
I love that one. On the job, having people to do this by doing it.
And I think the great thing with farming as well is we have like these beautiful backdrops of like
It's free, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you can just pull up like
the
fields.
Pennines. Who else has the Pennines?
Yes. Any more than 3 takes, give up. That's what I'm watching. 3 takes.
First time.
First one's good enough.
Right, I've lost track of where I am now. Charlie, were you finished?
No, but yes.
Yeah.
I'll never be
School.
Yeah, school kids. Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, so I really like what Charlie's doing, and I didn't really know that you did that. I think that's amazing.
I like that.
Something you can do and educate straight to kids, and like we're all doing at the moment, this whole social media thing. I think that's really important. Just think 5 years ago, so I've been doing it for like 6 years now. When I first started, there weren't that many people doing it. Like you come back to now, there's so many people doing it, and then go another 6 years, and there'll be hopefully like 300 times more. Do you know what I mean? It just gets bigger. It's cumulative of people doing it. I think that's a big thing that we can do, and just show them what we do. If you're on site and you're filming yourself, it might be a bit mucky or something might not be perfect. I think that is the best way, in my opinion.
Go on, Charlie.
Just really quickly, one of the most rewarding things we've ever done is having the Scouts and Cubs groups out, but we also have the WI, so we both
Brilliant.
not the WI, but we have them out during lambing, and it's just like we haven't got a fancy setup. They just come and have a look in the shed, put their head in, and I get more out of it than they do, I'm sure. Absolutely love
You
it.
get jam out of it.
Do I get
Always.
They buy me and they are vicious.
So any opportunity to engage. So brilliant. Thank you all for your contribution. We'll go around in a minute and just remind people of who you are. Thanks for everybody that watched. A few plugs. So on the bit at the bottom, you'll be able to see the AHDB We Eat Balance campaign, and also the school stuff, the education stuff that we do. So thank you for listening in. Thanks you for putting your comments. And if we go, which way did I start last time? Flav, if we start with you, then just tell us again who you are, so what you do, and your Twitter handles, please.
Flavian Obiero, pig farmer, Hampshire, the Kenyan pig farmer everywhere, Kenyan pig farmer on Twitter.
Joe Seels on YouTube and TikTok, beef and arable farmer.
Charlie?
Charlie Beaty, mixed farmer, beef, sheep and arable, and I'm at Globetrotting Farm Girl on Instagram. I don't really do Twitter because I don't like it.
Charlotte Ashley, and my handle on nearly everything is Charlotte Ashley Farm, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, but I don't really use Twitter. Same, I don't really like it that much.
I'm Isaac AgriLeader, IZAK AgriLeader on most things, but I'm really not in that space. But if you want to do that.
Amy Jackson, farming communications, and I'm at Oxtail, that's Oxtale, on Twitter only.
Oh, this is weird. So I'm Thomas Pemberton, Tom Pemberton Farm Life on YouTube and a little bit of Instagram and stuff like that. Just Tom Pemberton Farm Life, it works.
Are you Thomas on a Sunday?
Full name Thomas Charles John Pemberton. My dad wanted a Charles. Charlie.
Charlie is the best. Yeah. And I am Becca Farms on YouTube, and then Rebecca Wilson 722 on Instagram. You can tell I never actually was planning on doing Instagram with that.
Change it.
So thank you guys, a really good discussion. Thank you for everybody that listened in. Get involved, like, share, and get involved with the weed balance and everything that these guys do. And let's stay positive. Let's get a good positive message out there. So thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Don't be afraid to close.
Cheers.